Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to Vicious Whispers with Mark Tullius, episode 16. Today we have chapter 9 of Brightside. Hopefully you guys are enjoying that audiobook. After today's chapter, we will be at the halfway point. I think we have another 4.5 hours to go. But hopefully you're enjoying it. And we will get into that a little bit later. First, a little wrap up of what I've been doing. This is the first podcast of the year. Haven't recorded anything yet. On February 5th, I am going to do a live podcast. I think we'll do it on Facebook Live, and I'll be able to answer questions, stuff like that. That's when Messiah comes out. And so I thought that'd be cool to kind of celebrate that release by answering questions about Messiah, writing, whatever else you guys might have in mind. So anything you want to know, go ahead and join me on that day. Next week's episode and the week after, I will remind you guys, let you know exactly when that's happening. But yeah, that'll be on February 5th, the release date. Just got back from Oregon. I had a fun trip with the family. We went up there to celebrate New Year's. Oregon is one of the places I've been looking at for retirement, somewhere I think I'd like to end up. I would love to get out of Southern California. I love my house and my backyard, and that's about it. Other than that, do not want to be here. So the cool thing about going up to Oregon, we flew into Portland and we drove up to Mount Hood. Was how much everyone loved it. My son said he would move there tomorrow or today, and my wife was very, very interested in it. She really enjoyed it. There's some great training up there too for jiu-jitsu, so we shall see what happens. This summer, at the start of summer, I'm planning on doing a 2 to 3 week trip up the coast, and then maybe down to Boise, Idaho, and around to do different readings and stuff like that. But the other reason I want to do it is to hit jiu-jitsu gyms for my family. Hopefully I'll be able to train with them. But then also to see where we might like to move. So that way we can check out different parts of Oregon. I really want to check out the southern part of Oregon. Also want to look at Washington and see what else is around. So that is what we're doing. I'm realizing that life is just too short to fucking wait to do this shit that you want. I don't want to wait until the kids are retired to move and then we're too old to do anything. Because fuck, I'm going to be 60 when my son's 18, I think. That blows. Didn't think that one through, but it's all good. When we were there, although I was hesitant to try it, we all skied. My wife and her sister, they used to ski since they skied since they were little. My daughter and her cousin took to it right away. Even Jake did a good job. I did a private lesson with him. My first time ever trying it, and it was brutal. If my low back wasn't bad and my shoulder wasn't bad, maybe I would have continued doing it after the lesson, but I fell so many times that I had trouble walking the next couple of days. So it was not the most fun I've ever had. It's always hard to try a new sport. Very humbling when you suck at it. But it was good for me. It was good to do, and it was a lot of fun watching my son ski and everyone else. So that was cool, although that is not a sport I plan on pursuing. What else has happened? Oh, last week I got to see my doctor, Dr. Steve Yoon, about my shoulder. I had stem cell done 8 weeks ago, and I was incredibly happy with the results so far. It still doesn't feel nearly as strong as it should, but the pain is gone almost entirely. The instability, which is pretty amazing considering how bad the arthritis was. It used to be, if I would simply just move my hand, if I would give a hug, if I would take a drink, anything I would do, I would hear the crunching. It would hurt, be a dull ache. If I rolled on it, if I did anything at all, I had a lot of problems with my shoulder. And so 8 weeks with the stem cell, and that is pretty much gone. And what's really cool, well, he was surprised at how great my results were so far. He said because this is the point where the results really start to take off. So these next 4 weeks are where I should have a lot of even more gains. And so we shall see how that goes. But yeah, pretty excited about it. I got permission to start using the infrared sauna again, and I've been doing the cold water therapy. And yeah, it's kind of, the cold water is not the easiest thing to do, but I'm glad I'm doing it. I did it 2 days ago. I think it was 54 degrees. The coldest I've done it lately is like 52 degrees. But at 54 degrees, I spent 30 minutes in there, and it took me a while to recover from it. And my wife was asking if it's really a smart thing to do. But no, I feel so much better after doing it. So, never easy to start doing it. But the thing I really enjoy about it is how much stronger it makes you mentally. Like, you have to force yourself to do it. It's not an easy thing when you can be inside, nice and comfortable, just relaxed, to force yourself to go into freezing water or very cold water. Yeah, not the easiest thing to do, but I'm glad I'm doing it. So that was cool that I got the release for that. And then been doing a little bit more yoga. Shoulder's feeling good. And in 4 weeks, I will slowly get back into jiu-jitsu and see how that's going. Hopefully my back will still be doing okay. Right now it feels pretty good. My wife just bought me some gravity boots, so I'm going to be trying those out to see how that helps with decompression on my back. And I will let you guys know. Although, you're probably not here to hear about my fucking body, right? Probably here for my writing, hopefully. Hopefully you guys are fans of my writing. That's why you're here. If you enjoy hearing me babble about my family and other stuff, that's cool too. But let's get into the writing. Ain't No Messiah. So, good and bad news this week. Well, great news is hardcover is already ordered. Everything's looking awesome. That all came together really smoothly. All the finalized versions of the book are already loaded up on Amazon, KDP, Smashwords, iTunes. So all those which are available for pre-order, all that's done. Usually I wait till the last minute. I'm really rushing to get stuff done with most of my books, but this one got it all finished ahead of time, which is nice. The other nice thing with it are some wonderful reviews came in. I was very afraid to read the reviews, especially from Kirkus, because that's an important one. So here's what Kirkus had to say. Let's see. In Tullius's first book of a planned series, a tale, what is it called? Oh, I'm going with Tales of the Blessed and Broken. So that's the 5-book series. Ain't No Messiah's book 1. It says, a young man must decide whether to submit to his hellfire preaching father's plans for him. Then they pretty much gave a really long summary of the book. One of the cool things that they included was the climactic Quentin Tarantino-esque finale. They really liked that one. So overall they enjoyed the book. The verdict was a compelling, if sometimes lurid, picture of faith gone wrong. The review was all positive, except for this reviewer said at the very end, she put, however, there's an unpleasantly macho feel to the novel, with its gratuitously pornographic scenes and the fact that most of its female characters serve only as objects of male fantasy. That is true. There's a lot of porn in this one. In fact, I think Joshua gets addicted. But it's a statement about it, and it was written that way for a reason. So, whatever. If you guys don't like sex scenes, porn, that sort of thing, don't read it or listen to it. But if you're not a fucking prude, then check it out. No, I understand. This book was not written for the reader. It was written, I think that's how most of my books are. I just answered an interview question the other day about whether or not I write for the reader. I'm like, fuck that. You write the story that comes to you, and you can't think about what the reader wants. And maybe I would be more successful if I followed some template and, oh, the reader expects this, this, and this. Let's give them this, this, and this, and let's dumb it down, and let's, fuck that. I'm writing for myself. Hopefully you guys enjoy it, but I feel like if I do a good job, if it's a story that I want to read, then hopefully other people will want to read it. So that's what I do. So that one was a cool, definitely cool review. Even stronger review came in a couple days later from Indie Reader. They gave it one of their indie favorites of the week, and the verdict was, Ain't No Messiah is a beautifully written book about one man's effort to find himself, and maybe even a bit of happiness, in a world bitter enough to greet even a supposed Messiah with abuse and scapegoating. So yeah, I couldn't ask for anything better with that. That was pretty awesome. Yeah, beautifully written. Ooh. And then she put some really nice stuff about the characters and everything else. So that was really cool to find someone that enjoyed it like that. Um, so I was super pumped about that. Even sent that one to my wife. I was like, oh, look, I don't suck. I don't suck. Um, and then I happened to see this review on NetGalley. And most people will say, don't read reviews. But as an independent author, like, I'm the one who handles all my shit. I need to pull from reviews for marketing purposes and everything else. So I have to see it. It's just part of it. Good thing is it's given me a tough skin, because here's a review from Melanie P. I will not tell you what P stands for, because I don't know, and I'm just going to make it up. So I don't want to lie to you guys. All right. She gave me a 1-star rating. And luckily this is just on NetGalley, so it's not important, although it will probably dissuade other reviewers from, or other readers from checking it out. So that kind of sucks. But here's what she put. I really tried to like this, but there are too many instances of childhood abuse. I'm about halfway through and I just can't go on. I would like a clue if there's going to be something good, but all clues seem to be suggesting that the Messiah will be killed after surviving many events that should or would have killed others. I may be wrong, but I just can't go on with any hope of redemption. It's like, well, maybe you don't fucking leave a review if you're not going to read the whole book. But hey, it's all good, because now if there's anyone that really, 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 really doesn't like childhood abuse, don't read it. There is childhood abuse in this book. There's also someone else in one of the other reviews, they said it's a dark and painful book to read, and it's also not for the squeamish, because there was a good amount of violence. But we enjoy violence. If you guys are here, you probably like dark shit. You probably watch horror movies. You probably like suspense. You probably, I don't know, maybe you're not afraid of a little blood, guts, and potty mouth language. Or maybe you are and you're just here by accident and you're like, fuck this guy, I'm not watching this shit again. Never know. An important thing I realized is the importance of Goodreads. Had an awesome review today and became friends with someone because of it. Yeah, I like her because she wrote a good review. I know, that's not why I like her. Actually, yeah, it is. I'm not going to lie. But she would probably be super cool anyways. She checked out Twisted Reunion and really liked it. Here, so if you guys are looking for horror, check this out. All right, if you're looking for a book that will make you rethink turning off the light at night, then you need to grab this book. It's a perfect read. These stories are spooky beyond all belief. There are very few things that make my skin crawl. Very few books that have made me think anything but what a good story. But these stories, oh my. Forget lions, tigers, and bears. You're going to be looking to the person next to you, the person in the grocery store. Some of these stories are enough to make you shrug and check under the bed. But it goes on. And at the end she says, if you are squeamish or have an aversion to language, etc., this is not the book for you. But other than that, she said it was awesome. She loved it. So that was super cool. And because she took the time to write the review and to let me know about it, I offered her a signed paperback of her choosing. And yeah, so she's excited about that. So if you want to get on my good side, if you want to be my friend, if you want me to not hate you, then write a review and do it on Goodreads. Super easy. That's probably the most helpful place. It's somewhere I've neglected to do much with. I shouldn't say I hate all social media and stuff like that. But I'm an introvert, even online. I don't like really to interact that much. But that's a place to do it. And so if you guys could get on there, add my books to your bookshelf. If you've read them, please leave a review or a rating. That way your friends get to see it. It's probably the biggest way for me to spread my sickness. So yeah, help me spread my disease. And if you're interested in a Goodreads, I'm doing a giveaway on Goodreads right now for Ain't No Messiah. I'm giving away 20 signed copies of the advanced book. I think right now there's like 300 or so people requesting it, but you still got a chance. Or review the podcast, review one of my books, send me a message, and then I'll just send you the book, signed copy. If you live in the U.S., I'm not spending too much money in your ass. What else do we got going on? Oh, got a super cool, my buddy Jeff Campbell, who did the cover for Ain't No Messiah, which is Bam, right there. Nice, beautiful cross, fire on the building, blah, blah, blah. He just redid the cover for Try Not to Die at Grandma's House. He had already created the logo, and then we're redesigning book one. A cover of book one I thought already looked awesome. My friend Martin Kelly, an awesome tattooist at Body Electric Tattoo, where I had my entire back done, he was the one who did that. But we decided to redo it just so they all have the same style on the entire series. Jeff is writing a book with me right now. It's going to be a while before that one comes out, but that's Try Not to Die at Satan's Island. But he's also helping me redesign the whole thing. So we redid the logo. He's redoing the cover. I'll put up the rough draft for you to check out. Hopefully that'll be finished by next week. And then he's also doing the cover for Try Not to Die in Brightside. And so those are going to be done soon. Pretty excited about that. And the last thing I wanted to mention before we get into the story is the short story collection I've been working on. I was bragging about how I was done with that shit. I was going to hit my mark to get it all done by the end of the year. I was pretty much calling it finished. I almost finished the short story In the Cards, which is the last one. I went and had a tarot card reading by Jeff's wife, Alina. It was an awesome reading. I got a lot out of it, and I was able to ask her all kinds of questions about the story. I already knew what was going to happen in the story, but I wanted to make the card reading pretty accurate, and then also just get lots of her thoughts, just to make the reader, and to make that main character, who's a female, more realistic. It's like, I'm not a tarot card reader. I don't know what the hell they might be experiencing. So this is a nice blend of her experiences with this character that I created, but it is not finished. It's going to take a little bit more work. I decided I would do one more reading with her to kind of go over some more stuff. I want to actually look at the cards that she used for her reading. They look awesome. So I want to look at that set. But that story is just about done. The problem is, there have been 2 stories that my editor, my sister, kicked back to me saying that she didn't feel that strongly about one, or that it really needed something. And she suggested what it was, that it's the story, what is it called? Oh, Results Guaranteed. It's one of the early ones I wrote. It's a short story. The way I had fixed it up, I was like, okay, it could work. It's a decent story. It can work. I could put it out. Or I could completely just say, fuck it, I'm not going to include it because it's not that strong. Or I can actually rewrite it. I can add in another character. I can make it exciting. I could take her advice. And so that is what I'm going to do. But I don't feel like doing that shit now. I got so much stuff going on with Messiah. I need to finish up Messiah. Finish up Try Not to Die on Brightside as far as all the marketing and getting all that ready, formatting, all that stuff. And then I really want to get into Beyond Brightside, which I looked at over the holiday break. I was really excited to get back into that book, but fuck, it's gonna take a lot of work to write it. So what I told myself, I was like, okay, I'm gonna finish up Messiah, jump into Beyond Brightside, and then let's say 3-4 months from now, that's when I could go back and finish these. I have all my notes about the stories. They'll be super easy to do, super quick, and there's no rush for me to finish them. So that's just something I have to do. I have to prioritize stuff. I can't be working on 1,000 things at once, which is one of my big problems. So I'm going to knock that out when it is time. All right, let's do it. We got an exciting chapter, what I think is an exciting chapter this week. Chapter 9. Let's get into it, and then afterwards I will tell you some more personal stuff about me that I might regret later, because like, oh wow, giving away too much shit about myself. All right, guys, let's do it. Chapter 9 of Brightside. Here it is, narrated by T. Quillen. Hope you enjoy.
Chapter 9. Demarius had a big mouth. Day 66, he heard me thinking about Belinda, the woman who lived in my apartment before me. Everyone said Belinda seemed nice, kept to herself. I never met her. But every time I saw my tub, all I wanted to know was what she was thinking. That tub was the reason for my 2-minute showers, why I did most of my washing at the sink. I'm not superstitious or any of that, but I didn't like going in there. I had too good of an imagination. Was the water real warm? Your body relaxed? Had you always known it was the right thing to do? Did you question it when you held that razor blade? When you realized all you needed was 60 cents of steel? Not even that, because all you really needed was that tiny little tip. Just dig it in and drag it back. And let it go. Let yourself flow away because you finally did it. You did what you should have done a long time ago. Demarius told Sharon everything. He had to. It was the rule. The council said everyone had to report thoughts of suicide. It wasn't to be taken lightly. Too many people had died. Some ended up in wheelchairs like Paul. Paul said he was up on the roof because he used to be a gymnast. He liked the freedom, the total control. He said he slipped, caught his toe on the ledge. He said someone would have to be crazy to do what he did. Risk ending up like him, confined to a wheelchair. But everyone knew better. Paul couldn't control his thoughts. The truth rolling around in that damaged brain. His wheelchair was electric. He controlled it with his mouth. He worked in the same building as me. The council created a special job to keep him busy. No one knew what he actually did. Every day he'd just roll around in his fancy chair. He had a live-in caretaker who'd dress him in a black sweatsuit and a matching baseball cap to cover up the part of his skull permanently sunk in. I didn't know Paul before the fall. Didn't know if his eyes were always bugged out like that, or if it was just the way anyone's would be after free-falling 80 feet. Sharon told me to take a seat, and then said, "I know it's difficult. I'm not suicidal. Joe." I got loud when I said, "I'm not. Yes, I thought about Belinda, but she killed herself in my bathroom. It was just a thought. Calm down. I'm not going to kill myself." Sharon nodded. "I understand." "Is that something you have to say? Is that what they teach you?" "I don't say it unless it's true." Sharon had seen me at my lowest, heard my darkest thoughts. I knew it wasn't her fault, but I couldn't stop myself. "This is a fucking joke. You love it here." "Not all the time." "Well, you act like you do. Is it better in Brightside because you didn't leave anyone behind? No one back home gives a shit about you? You prick." I felt like crawling into the chair. Sharon opened her mouth to speak, then closed it and cleared her throat. After a second, she regained her composure and said, "I left everyone." Neither of us said a word. There were no pictures up. I figured her a lonely workaholic. 6 years Tom and I were married," she said. "Abby just turned 1. I looked away from those eyes, down to her wedding finger, the white circle of skin. "Don't feel bad," Sharon said. "No one here knows." I couldn't get over how she could keep that from everyone. "I don't think about them during the day," she said. "And no one's ever asked. No one asks me anything." I said I was sorry. "Look, it was just a thought." "Are you saying you've never even had the thought?" "We're not here about me." Again, Sharon slipped. Thought about the first time she'd swallowed that bottle of pills, before she found meditation, inner peace. For the first time, Sharon showed she was just as broken as the rest of us. I felt sorry for her. especially as that stupid mantra hummed in her head. She sat up straight. Let's talk about your parents, about your mom. There's nothing to talk about. But you hold so much anger. Pretty sure every kid does. You're not a kid. You know what I mean. I think it's time you give them a call. Why? To get closure. Closure? You need to let go. Fine. Sure. Whatever. I'll call my parents. Can I go now? Sharon bit her lip. She let me into her mind. All those sad moments. She wanted me out of the room. She said, go down to the first floor and pick up a prepaid cell. She filled out a form and gave it to me. On my way out, I turned back. I'm sorry about your family. She gave me a sad smile. The clerk downstairs handed over the phone. He said it was monitored, that if I called anyone but the people on Sharon's list, I'd be sent to the cabin. Outside, the wind was whipping the trees, turning them into curled fingers looking like they were ready to break. Snow falling in clumps from those towering pines. I jogged into my building, headed down the hallway, walked soft on the creaky carpet. Vanessa, Sharon's flunky, had the first room on the right. She probably had her ear to the door, waiting for me to walk by so she could get me a one-on-one, smother me with good thoughts, try her hand at making me happy. Vanessa said all I had to do was listen, give her a chance. If she could see the bright side, anyone could. Harry and his shitty toupee had 6 pairs of shoes lining the hallway, a proud display for anyone to see. His attempt to make people think he had friends. But the guy was a hermit who loved Lysol, the ch-ch-ch of that can always going. It smelled like nothing outside of Ivan's bedroom. That's because he'd been taken to the cabin for trying to steal a car, as if he could actually get through the gate. Alex, the anorexic man I'd come across, had taken bets on if we'd see Ivan again. The worst was Erica, the girl who doused herself in perfume to cover her lactose intolerance. She kept her stereo up all the way to hide the awfulness she poured into her toilet. Every day was the same, the smells never changing. No guests staying over long enough to add their own scent. Everyone on this floor usually alone. Some of my neighbors had been married, and some still were. Probably the loneliest people I'd ever met. Brightsiders still went out, hung out, fucked their brains out. They just went about their business when they were done. Something always keeping people apart. Things better left unsaid, turning us into what we'd become. Not trusting others enough to let them close. Not allowing ourselves to become vulnerable. When I finally got to my door, I found another present. I threw it in the closet with the rest of the crap. Crap just like the rest of my apartment. It came with the room, what Belinda left behind. The IKEA dresser with the 27-inch TV taking up the top of it, the light blue armchair with sweat-stained armrests stuffed into the corner, the tiny table beside it, a place to put my drinks. The cracks shooting out from the ceiling fan, which hadn't worked since Belinda's first suicide attempt. Erica's stereo was shaking the walls. I sat on the bed, flipped open the phone, and powered it up. I was 8, sitting Indian style on our living room couch, just me and my Rubik's Cube. The TV was off because Mom figured watching all of that crap was part of my problem. She was in the kitchen waiting for Dad. He had just pulled into the driveway. The Rubik's Cube wasn't mine. Stephen said I could borrow it until I figured it out. I'd had it over a year. There were a bunch of people who couldn't figure out the puzzle, but most of them said it was because they weren't trying. If they wanted to waste a few minutes of their life, they could do it. I'd been trying, failing. Stephen even let me watch him solve it real slow, 5 times. I was staring at that stupid block, the center square a smudgy white. 8 bright yellow ones circled around it. It was the closest I ever got. Just 2 squares in the wrong place. The white one on one side and the yellow on the other. No matter how many twists and turns, it was always those 2 squares. The back door opened and then slammed shut. Dad's feet stomping into the kitchen. I held onto that cube and waited for him to toss his keys onto the table and then say "God damn it" when they slid right off, like they always did. Dad stayed in the kitchen where I couldn't see. Him and Mom were talking too low to hear. Ice clinked, the fridge opened and closed. A soda fizzed. They were too far away for their thoughts to be heard, but I knew they were talking about me, that I was such a disappointment. Mom had her proof, my IQ test from school. Knowing Mom, she was gloating, shoving that paper in Dad's face, saying, "I told you so." It made me keep trying with that cube. If I concentrated, I just knew I could get it right. I wasn't an idiot. She left the kitchen and stopped next to the dining room table in her green and white checkered sundress, like she was a good housewife. She gave me one of her quick smiles and said, "That's enough of that, Joey." I turned to the TV. I saw my sad face staring back at me in all that black. I wiped off the tears and looked back at Mom. Mom was done with me, already to the hallway, closing the door behind her. A few seconds later, the shower started. There was no noise from the kitchen. Up until then, I was never a cheater. Partly because I thought I'd never get away with it. Partly because I just knew it was wrong. That's what Dad always said. A soft clink of ice cubes came every few seconds. Dad was still in there, drinking his drink, most likely figuring out what to say. What I did next wasn't hard. Corey did it all the time. He'd bet $5 that he could solve it in under 5 minutes. He didn't always get paid, but he never lost. I put my fingernail under the corner of that white square and raised it up slow, careful not to scrape off the sticky stuff. I did the same thing with the yellow square on the other side. The fridge opened again, and Dad poured another drink. I concentrated real hard and laid down the white square, made sure it was lined up. The fridge closed. Dad headed for the dining room, and I placed the yellow square, rubbed it smooth with my thumb, and turned it over so the red, white, and blue sides showed. Dad stepped into the dining room, stopped at the table, his wrinkled white shirt, his tired blue slacks. He set his wallet and keys down so quietly, I barely heard them over the shower. He took a drink and turned toward me. From his spot at the table, Dad spoke way softer than normal, like he might have to come close. "So, you want to tell me what's wrong?" "Nothing." Dad took off his glasses. He needed the top of them for the TV, the bottom part for reading. I'd only ever seen them off when he was in bed. He set them next to his wallet. He said, "You've been crying." I couldn't look at Dad, so I stared at the TV. "I'm not crying." Dad came closer and stood in the way, his white button-down my new screen. "Don't do that, Joey. Look at me." What I liked about Dad was how he usually stayed on point, always speaking his thoughts. "It's okay to cry once in a while," he said. I said okay because I wished he would just leave me alone, forget all about me. But another part of me wanted him to sit down and see the cube, understand that maybe the numbers lied. I wasn't as dumb as they thought. Dad stepped right up to me. "Can I sit?" I wasn't used to Dad asking permission or him being so close, so I just sat there. I didn't say a word. Dad picked up the Rubik's Cube and sat down beside me, the hair on his arm touching mine. The cube was in his far hand, but Dad didn't even glance at it. Those naked brown eyes of his, really looking deep. So what's going on with you? I wasn't used to Dad's smell. It was too clean, like he hadn't done anything at work. Mom smelled more like a man than Dad did. Underneath all that sweat, a light touch of cologne, always there, always different. The water stopped, but neither of us asked why Mom needed to wash up before her tennis lesson. I didn't say it was her second shower of the day. So what is it? He said. Why were you crying? It's dumb. I pictured the test lady, the one who wanted to do things to me. Awful things. Naked and alone in her office. Dad jerked back. I didn't know he was like me at the time, but I suddenly wondered if I wasn't alone. He was picturing the test lady, the one he'd never seen. When my eyes widened, I just heard a hum. Dad's way of pushing out the thoughts, the things he didn't want me to hear. He kept his eyes on me, but started playing with the cube, turning it over in his hand. Those tests aren't all they're made out to be. We shouldn't have had you take it in the first place. 'Cause you knew I wouldn't do good? That's not true. Dad turned the cube even slower. And don't say 'cause, unless you want everyone to think you're stupid. Everyone's gonna anyways. No one will know about your score unless you tell them. You're smart, and I don't want you to ever think different. No, I'm not. Don't you think I'm smart? You're just like me. That almost made the tears come back. Dad gripped the cube, had it so the yellow side was up. But being book smart isn't what's important, and you need to understand that. Scores on tests and grades in school don't mean squat. Your mom thinks they do. Between you and me, what you have is more important. I thought he meant hearing thoughts, and I couldn't breathe. How much had he heard? What things had I thought about him? You're kind, he said. You have a big heart. You're going to be a good man. You're special. I relaxed a bit, but it was hard to listen. I looked him in the eyes. You think so? You know it's true. He finished his drink, set it down on the coffee table, and wiped his lips. You've got to be careful, though. You have a real gift, but you have to remember who you are. You can't always tell people what they want to hear. I won't. You do it all the time, he said. And I totally understand it. It feels good for everyone to love you. But sometimes, the right thing isn't going to make people happy. But it's what you have to do. Nodding seemed the only thing I was capable of. Dad turned to the cube, acted like it was the first time he saw it. You solved it? I started to say yes, wanted to make him proud. But after what he'd just said, I told him the truth. I switched the last 2 stickers. Dad laughed, told me I was learning, and that he was proud. Mom walked by in her towel and rolled her eyes. She thought Dad was coddling me. Day 66. The sun was setting, and I suddenly had this urge to call Mom. When Sharon suggested I give her a ring, I had no intention of following through. But here in this room with a closet of weird gifts, I wanted to yell at someone. I punched in the numbers faster than I could think about it. The phone rang, and I tried to remember what she sounded like, if I'd ever had a real conversation with her. Once I'd moved out, I'd basically only heard from my father. It rang again, and I almost hung up. Mom used the same greeting she used whenever a guy would call and Dad was around. Who's this? Joey, she whispered, is that you? The setting red sun filled my window, everything beyond it. I brought the phone back to my ear. Yeah. Like she was sorry to hear it, she said, "Oh my God." I realized it was late in Ohio. Did I wake you? No, not at all. Are you all right? I'm okay. She sounded genuine when she said she missed me. So much. I really do. Suddenly, I was 3 years old again. Just happy to hear her voice. I hate this, she said. I've tried to call you, but they won't put me through. I was scared. Have they hurt you? No, I'm fine. You don't sound it. If anyone had been listening to the call, they probably would have believed her, the way she sounded so sweet. You know you can call me any time, right? I'm so glad you called. Yeah. So, how have you been, Joey? What's it like? I rubbed my temple, tried to quiet the voice telling me to hang up. It's different. It seems loud. It's my neighbor. Oh, what's his name? Her. Oh, are they nice? I knew someone was listening in, waiting for me to slip up. I suddenly felt trapped, felt the anger building. I'm sure you're meeting other people, like you. That must be exciting. Just be yourself. What's that mean? Nothing. You're always smart, sometimes too smart. I thought I was an idiot. Mom sounded a lot more like that woman I remembered when she said, I never once called you that. You thought I was stupid. Joey. You did. I was there. I got a 91 on my IQ test and you thought I was an idiot. I opened my eyes, looked out the window. Everything red. Suddenly I was 5 years old, coming home from the snowstorm, hating my mother. I said, it wasn't my fault. The stuff she was thinking made it so I couldn't think. Who? The test lady. She wanted to hold me, feel my skin on hers. She wanted to breathe in my hair. You didn't tell us? And say what? I'd been hearing thoughts my whole life and knew damn well you hated me? Don't you ever say that. Why, should I just think it? Does that make it better? Does it make it any less true? Stop it, Joey. Stop it. Right now. I did. But only because I was done. I heard the hurt in her voice, even if it was barely there. That would have to be enough. Is that why you called? To accuse me? To point fingers? I thought about it a minute. Loved not having to hear what she was thinking. Imagine her heart being crushed. Closure. Sharon's word flying out of my mouth. How do you think I feel? Mom said. You don't think you owe me an apology? Listening in whenever you wanted? I took my time to answer. Chose to speak the truth. I guess I do owe you an apology. For the time when I was 6 and you were fucking Brian's stepdad. Don't talk that way. When all you could think about all day long was how much you loved him, how you wanted to fly away, how it'd be so much better. I looked at the sky, wishing I could turn back time, put her on that plane. How he was going to send you to New York. You'd only have to see me when you wanted to. Joey, I always loved you. I'm sorry for giving you the guilt trip. I should have let you abandon us. Maybe you wouldn't have gotten so screwed up."
"You make it seem like I thought bad things all the time," Mom said. "What about all the good thoughts I had? Don't those count for something?"
"Should they?"
"Don't you dare tell me there weren't times that you hated me. I listened to you scream you wished I was dead."
I kept quiet.
"It's natural to have bad thoughts once in a while. It's natural to be upset and tired and cranky. It's natural not to be satisfied, to want something more."
She paused like she had something more important to say, and then I heard the sobs.
"You think it was easy living in that house with you and your father? Leaving nothing inside my head? Ripping it out whenever you wanted? I could have left. I thought about it. And yeah, I took comfort in the arms of other men, but I deserved some time to myself, away from you and your dad."
"Poor you."
"You have no idea what it was like."
"Just put Dad on the phone."
"He's not here."
"Then I have to go. I only have a certain amount of minutes."
"Joey, please, I don't want you to hate me."
"Well, I do."
"How can you say that?"
"You know, it wouldn't even surprise me if you were the one who turned me in." I pictured Saul, that douchebag, making the call. I pictured his fat fingers and that shit-eating grin. Then everything changed.
"I would never turn you in, Joey. Never. When I found out your father did, I felt like I was going to die."
My stomach churned acid. "You're sick in the head."
"I don't know why he did it. I'm so sorry."
I don't remember letting go of the phone, but I heard it crack against the floor, my mother sounding like she was screaming from the bottom of a well. My foot stomped down on the phone, cracking it, shattering her goddamn voice. Dad turned me in. Just handed me over. I saw the closet. Opened it. All those fucking gifts. I flung them from the closet, ripped them open. The little swan figurine, I smashed it against the wall. The fishing pole, I snapped it in two. Everything obliterated. Tiny pieces flying across the room, sliding under my bed, cracking against the window. I destroyed it all and collapsed. My own father. The man who would never give up on me. Told me he'd always be there, no matter what. Through my tear-bubbled eyes, I could see a tiny piece of metal, curved, shiny, resting right in front of my face on the floor. My hand reached out. I held it under the light. So small and hard and silver. And it wasn't the first time I'd seen it. Felt it pressed against my finger as a kid. No. Frantically, I crawled across the floor, sifting through all the broken bits. The tuning fork that wasn't really a tuning fork. The fishing pole snapped in two, the bottom part hollowed out. The metal picture frame with the strange spring. Everything coming into focus. My hands putting it together, dropping the bolt slide into place like Dad showed me, screwing the barrel. In 10 minutes, there it was. 8 pounds of power. American metal. The shotgun Dad got when Grandpa decided a mouthful of buckshot beat cancer hands down. Dad was only a kid, just like me. The stock's been rubbed smooth, the last bit of sun shining on the wood, bouncing off the steel. Dad used to say an empty gun was useless. I searched under the bed, gathered everything, but they weren't here. I wondered if Dad had forgotten, or if I'd have to wait until his next gift. But there, on the shelf, I had my answer. I walked over and picked up the D-cell batteries, the ones that didn't fit in Billy Bass, the ones too light in my hands. I began peeling the label, saw the plastic red shell. Under an inch. 38 grams. 8 tiny balls to cause so much damage. The shell slipped into the receiver with a soft click, like it was meant to be. It was the first time I loaded this thing without Dad over my shoulder. I heard his voice in my head. Never be afraid when you pull the trigger. Is this what he wanted? All these stupid gifts to give me a way out? My hand ran over the stock, smooth, shiny from years of handling. It was a piece of history to be passed on. The history of my grandfather's final shot. I pushed the shotgun's safety, then popped it back. The little circle was so red, red like the sun. Like the rage eating at my mind, making me want to scream. I raised the shotgun. Liked how it felt. Something real. Something solid. Dad's voice still in my head. Be a man and deal with it. I looked back at the sun. My eyes hurting. Chest hurting. Everything fucking hurting. I wanted it to end. I racked the shotgun. Couldn't hear Dad's voice anymore. The man who was supposed to take care of me. The man that was supposed to be there to love me no matter what. I guided the barrel into place. The cool metal under my skin. I put my thumb on the trigger guard, the barrel pressed against my chin, keeping it up like Mom always said. Head high. Eyes held straight. My last sunset, seeing only red. Everything yelling at me to just fucking do it, like Belinda, like Grandpa, like all the other Brightsiders, the ones smart enough to escape. But then I pictured Paul, breathing into that tube to make his electric chair roll. I pictured my mangled face, some nurse cleaning the shit out of my pants. I pictured Danny pushing me through the square. Everyone thinking, what a fucking dumb shit. Couldn't even kill himself. The shotgun fell against my lap. My father's one simple request, and I couldn't even do it. I just ran.
Alright guys, we are back. Wow, exciting shit in that one, right? How many of you guys saw that coming? Joe's dad turning him in. Wow, what a fucking rat bastard. Or, how many of you guys saw that gun coming? The shotgun. That was kind of a tough one, trying to figure out, okay, how could we get a shotgun in there? Try to make it as realistic as possible. Did research on that one, looking up the kinds of guns we could bring in, and all the different pieces. So it still might have been a little bit of a stretch, but hopefully you guys bought it. That's one of the nice things about fiction. You can just kind of make it somewhat believable. But yeah, I really did try to make that as close to the as plausible as possible. That's what I shoot for. And if something's too ridiculous, well, I'll leave it out. There is one more thing in this story that's kind of hard to believe. It's kind of a big, but it's so far hasn't been an issue. And most people like it could happen. So we'll go into that when you guys actually hear it. So in this one, not only is there the dad's betrayal, but suicide is sprinkled throughout this chapter, right? That when I first started writing the book, even when I got through the first, well, I think mainly when I first started writing it, I had no idea that suicide was going to be such a big theme. I didn't know that was going to be such an issue. I did know when I first came up with the idea, I did know that Joe was sitting on his bed with a shotgun, and that those thoughts were going through his mind, either escape or die. And I think suicide for him was going to be a much bigger thing. but I didn't understand how much stuff I needed to work out. Oh, and if you guys hear purring right now, it's fucking not me, I swear to God. It's my cat. If I try to throw the cat out of here, he's gonna fucking make all kinds of noise. If I kill him or throw him outside, my kids will probably be pretty upset at me. So the happy medium is listen to this little dickhead purr. Maybe it's gonna make you feel nice and warm inside. Oh, there. I'm even gonna pet him. Oh, you can see his tail go by. So sweet. I'm such a sucker. But anyhow, so going back to the suicide, after I completely finished the first draft, I thought this book was pretty much done. That is when I found Tom Spanbauer and went to his writing workshop. The assignment there that I have many of my friends do is to write about a moment that changed you. And I kind of had a hard time trying to figure out what it was, but I wrote about a moment from 12 years before where one of my very good friends from college killed himself. I thought I had been past it. I thought I had worked through all that, but I realized I hadn't at all. That was the one that I spent an entire night just writing, crying about. I worked through all kinds of stuff by writing a short story called Seeing Red. Probably never see the light of day. I just don't think I'll share it. And actually, this book is kind of dedicated to that friend, too. I forget exactly what I said. Oh, it's dedicated to Jen, who was always able to see the bright side, and my good friend, who wasn't able to. They probably sounded a lot smarter than that, and it's not what the actual thing is, but that's pretty much the gist of it. But suicide has been a big thing for me most of my life. I don't know from what age, but from a very young age, I was obsessed with death. I was thinking about it a lot. I'm guessing I was probably like 10 or 11 when I started thinking about actually killing myself and how much it would be better to be dead. I hated myself. And this is something that no one knew about. Parents didn't know. Teachers didn't know. I was a very good student, high grades. And I could never understand why I had these feelings, but they were there. And they were there most of my life. I mentioned last week that I used to cut myself. And that was something I would play around with that. I would play around with the idea of just slitting my wrist. When I was old enough, I got a motorcycle. And lots of times I'd be going down the road thinking like, okay, how fast do I need to crash in order to fucking kill myself? What if I did this? What if I did that? What if I go off this hill? What if I hit this? And one of the things in my head was I would always have to, the only way I would do it is if it looked like an accident. So with a motorcycle accident, that would definitely do it. But because I never wanted to hurt other people. I could never imagine what that would do to my parents or to other people. And that's a big reason why I didn't do it. But it's something that I dealt with it most of my life. I don't know when it changed. I think all that stuff started changing probably when I had kids, and then just kind of more of a discovery of myself. Going to therapy and all that has now helped me understand even more why I had those thoughts, and why I was so dark and twisted and everything else. But it's definitely a big thing. And so if you are dealing with that, be sure to talk to someone about it, because you don't want to make that kind of fucking mistake that my buddy did. Wrecked his family, ruined the lives of so many other people that I'm sure he didn't even know. I'm sure he didn't think that it would affect friends, the way it did, and everyone else. But it was his choice. He did it. Can't take that shit back. What else is going on in this chapter besides the fun stuff with suicide? Going to the therapist again. Therapy's good. Sharon, Joe starts to relate to Sharon a little bit more. Gets to see her more as a human instead of just a therapist, instead of just someone that is trying to get his thoughts. He realizes that, she has problems of her own. She's even attempted suicide before. And then just getting into, there was another thing on there I wanted to point out too. There's a part with his dad saying how, test scores are not important. as a perfectionist, as someone who's always struggled with not being good enough, not feeling like they're good enough, I think I always kind of cruised in school because I knew I don't want to put too much effort. One, I didn't want to be a nerd, but I also felt like I was never going to live up to my brother and his score, so like why even try? And I would never be perfect, so why try? Why put that much effort into it? But I do believe that yeah, those scores just, I don't know, they're cool. And that's why I tell my daughter and my niece, they're both high achievers. I was like, look, I don't really give a shit about any of that stuff. Might be great. Maybe you'll get into a great school. If you want to do that, like, that's awesome. Good for you. But I'm more proud of all these other things. Like, that's just one little aspect of them. So I don't reward them for like getting crazy good grades or whatever else. And we don't put that much emphasis on it. If they're intelligent, if they're getting good grades, it's like, okay, that's awesome. But I'm just as excited about your emotional intelligence and what you can do in art and what you can do in sports and what you can do is what kind of person you are. But that's just me and the way I've chosen to parent. Just trying to make my kids not be anything like me. That is my goal. If they can love themselves, then that's awesome. If they're proud of themselves, if they can value themselves, then that's wonderful. Just do not want them having any of those same feelings of self-hatred and everything that I struggle with most of my life. Fuck, I used to have guns in my mouth. I fucking pulled the trigger with the safety on. Shit like that. Not a good place to be. So I feel like that would be my biggest failure as a parent, is if I passed any of that kind of shit onto them and didn't prepare them for how to deal with those emotions if they do have them. All right, the last thing I just want to touch on was telling people what they want to hear. Like you guys. I love you guys. You guys are awesome. That's what you want to hear. Truth is, maybe you're not fucking awesome. Maybe you got tons of problems. Maybe you need to do something about it. But who am I to judge? Alright guys, it's getting late. I still got some shit to do. I need to go jump in the pool, do about half an hour in there, maybe 20 minutes. What else? And then some stuff for Messiah. Today I got to do some graphic design and get some ads ready for the big release. Alright, hopefully you guys enjoyed today's story. Next week we have chapter 10 and episode 17. Hope you will join me. Alright guys, have an incredible week and I'll talk to you later. Peace.